Maps. People are absolutely fascinated by maps. And you see that when you go online and you notice there are just so many maps of the United States showing what's most popular in a given state. Here, for example, the most popular TV show in every state, right? And these posts are very popular. If you go through your social media account or whatever, you'll see things like this popping up all the time. Most popular vehicles by state. People, for whatever reason, just love to be able to look at this and compare what's in their state to what's in other states around the country. Don't know why completely, but they just find it very interesting. So most popular chain restaurants by state, and you'll see other sillier things. So I think if you want a formula for a viral post, you'd get a data set that has information by state and try and come up with what's most popular in a given state and post that, and people will probably share it, and it'll be a very popular post. People like to look at this type of information. So that's one way that you might use geographic information to create a visualization. But there are other sort of more business-oriented uses you could come up with. Suppose instead you wanted to decide, where should I put my restaurant? To do that, you'd want to look at the demographics of the neighborhood and the competition. And so you might take a data set that had information about the demographics, the income, the age, what other restaurants they prefer, information about the community where you're thinking of putting your restaurant, and also information about the various restaurants, how many have closed, how many have opened. You want to take that data and map it and use that to see whether your proposed location was the best one for your restaurant. So there's not only just a human interest of we're curious about mapping data, but also a business interest in trying to figure out, from a business perspective, what locations make the most sense, what location should we go into, what location should we get out of. So that's another reason to want to be able to map data. And so for this video, we'll take a very specific example of when we might want to map data. Suppose we're interested in a career in Tableau, and we want to see where the job market is strong. To do that, we might take listings from a website and just take the Tableau listings and look by state to see, or by area to see, which areas have the strongest demand for Tableau skills. And that's what I've done. I went to Dice and I downloaded, and I've provided this as a link, a data set of Tableau listings. And these probably won't be current, but you can at least look at this data set and see listings from, I think I downloaded this in August of 2015. And so here we have just, several hundred Tableau job listings. I guess it's altogether, almost 1,000 listings here with the job title, the date, the company, and the location. So that is our data set. There's also a URL here. And we're going to begin by importing this data to Tableau, and then using that location, we're going to see which areas have the highest concentration of Tableau jobs. Okay? So if that makes sense, I'm going to open up Tableau and bring in this data. And notice this happens to be a CSV file, which means comma separated value rather than an Excel file. I have it open in Excel, but because it's actually a text file, a comma separated value is a form of text file, I'm going to click text file here, and then I'm going to select this data set. And again, that data set is going to be available as one of the resources in the lecture. So I click on that, and then I open it. And it loads in Tableau right away. There's one issue here, which is that location is listed as ABC, which means it's coming in as a text field rather than a geographic field. I want this to ultimately be a geographic role, but the location is currently city and state. And so first I'm going to do a split. I'm going to split it into two different values. So now instead of location, I also have location split 1 and location split 2. So this is the city. And so now I'm going to rename this field city. And then location split 2, I'm going to rename as state. Great. And so now we have that, but these are still listed as text. So I need to switch the role to geographic. I'm going to click here, geographic role, and change that to city. So now Tableau knows that these are not just words, they're actually cities. And now I'm going to click here and change the geographic role to state. And so now again, Tableau knows that CA is not just two random letters, it's actually the state California. Okay, so now I've done a little bit of manipulation to the data so that Tableau knows that I'm giving geographic information with these two fields, the city and the state. And now I'm ready to begin opening a new worksheet. And now if I simply, here I have the listing of the dimensions, and if I simply double click the word state, that is going to show up in the view. However, notice that each of these dots is exactly the same size, and that's because I've put in the locations, but I haven't got any measure in here to determine how big these circles are going to be. So I need to add something to the view that's going to tell me whether these should be big or small, or basically some kind of size. Because right now I've only added a dimension to the view, and the dimension doesn't have any size to it. It's not big or small. It's simply either we have Oregon on our data set or we don't. Either we have Nevada in our data set or we don't. So you can see in the data set I have, there are no records for Idaho or Montana, but there are records for other states, right? Kansas has some jobs with Tableau in the listing. Nebraska does, right? So we can move out or move in with these plus and minus. And now I'm going to add a number of records to the view. And so now the dots are bigger or smaller depending on whether we have a few or a lot of records. I can also, right now I'm doing the size of the dot as the way I'm showing the number of records, but I can instead make it the color. So instead of doing a dot size, I'm doing a darker green for the states with the most jobs, and then this is practically invisible here for the states with no jobs, right? So this is a state with 27 jobs, whereas California has 209. And so that is a way to quickly understand which states have the most jobs. Of course, this is just the number of jobs by state, so it's not the number of jobs per square mile. It's not the number of jobs per city, right? So it might be there's some areas of California that hardly have any Tableau jobs. But this gives us a first quick look by state of the number of jobs. Now let's try also adding the city to the view. And so now we can be a little bit more precise about where the jobs are now that we've added the city data. For example, if we come into the New York area, we'll see Manhattan, Paramus, White Plains, Greenwich, right? We can see where particular jobs are, which towns. That's one option. We can also maybe change this back to size. I think that actually in this view makes it easier to see. So we can see that New York has the most. We see this one big dot here, and then we see Jersey City and Bethpage. And so now we've got a lot more specific detail. So if we wanted to do a search, we could get a pretty quick idea. Okay, for example, in the District of Columbia, what's going on here? So we have 5, Arlington 3, Bethesda 3, Alexandria 6, McLean, Reston, Herndon. So very quickly we can get an idea of which cities have the most jobs. Now, suppose we want to filter a little bit more on this data, and let's add a calculated field that's going to determine whether the title has Tableau. I want to know, I want to only look at the jobs where Tableau is actually in the job title. I'm going to use, there's a formula I think called contains. Does the job title contain the word Tableau? If I want to only choose jobs that are primarily about Tableau, looking for Tableau in the job title might be a good move. And so now I add this. So I just created this formula, Tableau in the job title, which will tell me, does the job title contain the word Tableau? And that's going to be true if the job title contains Tableau. So I add this to the view, select only those values that are truly true, meaning does have Tableau in the job title, and now I can just filter on those particular jobs. Now, I'm surprised how many jobs we've lost. Before we had 60 for New York, now we only have 7. So let's take a look at what the job titles actually are here. And I'll just drag them over here like this. And then I'll drag the number of records field in. And let's see which ones, let's look at this, sort by number of records, so the number of postings. And so the most common title is Data Analyst, and then Tableau Developer, and Business Intelligence Developer, and Business Analyst. So you see that actually these jobs, Data Scientist is also on there. These jobs are not necessarily, they're called Tableau Developer. Some of them are, there are 18 like that, but there are many jobs that it's a data analyst job, which would mean you're looking at data, but you're not only using Tableau. It's probably just one of the skills in your toolkit. So it might not actually be the best move to just limit our search to jobs where the job title says Tableau. We might want to be a more general data analyst. So that would be something you could consider. On the other hand, ClickView developer is probably a job where, yeah, it would be nice if you had some Tableau skills, but it's primarily about using ClickView. So maybe that would be, some data we'd remove. So, you can look more carefully at the job postings and try and narrow down so that you're really getting the postings you want. I hope that helps. This is just a beginning of the types of visualizations you can do with geography in Tableau, but it's definitely a very interesting and important area because a lot of the time data has a geographic component, and it's important to be able to map that and see how geography relates to the rest of your data. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.